In today's show, Anfernee Simons is out indefinitely, which is an opportunity for Shaedon Sharpe, plus all-star talk, including an interview with the chin balancer. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. Listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. It's free on all platforms, coming at you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. So once you start your days, make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we got a bummer update about Anfernee Simons. He's going to be out a while, out indefinitely. We'll talk about Anfernee Simons' injury, the opportunity it presents for Shaedon Sharpe. Then we'll turn our sights to the All-Star weekend ahead of us in Salt Lake City. Damian Lillard's in the three-point contest. Damian Lillard is going to play in the All-Star game on Sunday, and on All-Star Saturday night, that's the dunk contest, three-point contest, the fun stuff of All-Star Weekend. Chin Balancer, one of the great halftime acts, is going to be performing, and I got Chin Balancer on the program. We're going to talk about what it's like to be a halftime performer in the league and just kind of share some insights. It's a super fun interview. That's what we'll do to close the show. Before that, we have to have less fun. Admittedly, a little bit less fun. Today, the Trailblazers announced, following an MRI on Anfernee Simons' right ankle, that he has sustained a grade 2 sprain of that ankle and is out indefinitely. They have not announced a timetable for his return. Indefinitely is my language. Their language is no timetable. It's bad news. You knew it was going to be a bad injury. Like, it just looked like a bad ankle sprain. And then when they didn't do an MRI immediately, that's typically not a good sign. It's like, one, there was a little less urgency because of the All-Star break, but it's just like, if you are waiting a day to find out how bad it is, it's because you're expecting bad news, right? Like, it's because it just wasn't good. And on Thursday, it was confirmed not good. Grade 2 sprains can sideline you for a while. In fact, Justice Winslow sustained a grade 2 sprain of his left ankle on December 21st. Justice has not played. He's closing in on, like, he'll end up missing more than 2 months by the time they get back from the All-Star break, assuming he's available then. That's a long time. According to Jeff Stotts, the owner of InStreetClothes.com, it is a website that tracks sports injuries across multiple sports, and Jeff is, a medical professional who can provide some real insight, but also just like does good data on how long this stuff goes back several seasons. According to Jeff Stotts, the historic average for a grade 2 ankle sprain has been at roughly 3 weeks, or 9.7 games. It has included guys like John Morant and Kyle Lowry and Kevin Durant, who've recently sustained those type of ankle sprains and missed time. However, Stotts notes that this season, the absences for grade 2 sprains have pushed closer to 6 weeks and roughly 15 games. LaMelo Ball, Chris Duarte, Precious Achiuwa, Justice Winslow, all guys who have missed a long time with those grade 2 sprains. That stinks. If Anfernee Simons were to miss 3 weeks, that's a return on March 9th. That March 9th would be 3 weeks. The Blazers play a game on March 10th, so assume he would return for that game at Philly. That'd be 7 games that he misses. And then by the time he would return, the Blazers they would have 22 games. They would have 23 games left in the regular season. I'm doing the math wrong. They would have 16 games left in the regular season. If he returns on March 9th, you still have time. You got basically a month left and 13 more games. If it's closer to 6 weeks, like if it's the 6-week mark, that would be March 30th. The Blazers play on March 31st. He would miss 17 total games. And if he comes back on that Kings game, there'd be 6 games remaining in the season. So I think there's a chance that Anfernee Simons doesn't play basketball again this season. That would obviously be a long tail on this injury, and if it's closer to 3 weeks, he'll have plenty of opportunity, a month of basketball left, like I said. So and time to play. But dang it, dang it. You knew it was bad. If you don't know, Anfernee Simons went up for a floater on Tuesday's game against the Washington Wizards. End of the third quarter, he goes up for a floater, comes down and lands on Kyle Kuzma's foot as he's coming down and rolls his right ankle pretty bad. Initial x-rays came back negative, but like that just means he didn't break a bone. You know, it's grade 2 suggests some ligament damage. It's bad. It's a bummer. You know, basketball involves ankle sprains. Guys, obviously bodies are different. Like saying like Justice Winslow's missed 2 months does not mean that Anfernee Simons will miss 2 months. That's not what it means. That's why the data from Jeff Stott says like on average 3 weeks. Recently, more like 6 weeks. If Ant is somewhere in the middle, he can return and play again this season. If he doesn't, the Blazers are down their starting shooting guard, which means a lot of Shaedon Sharpe and a lot of Keon Johnson. Maybe not a lot of Keon Johnson, but Keon will probably have to play at least a little bit. Maybe Ryan Arcidiacono, but like Blazers aren't flush with guards anymore on the roster, so those are your best bets after getting rid of GP2 and Josh Hart at the All-Star break. I think there's a world where Justice Winslow is healthy and he plays a little bit of, like, he's a weird player, right? Like he could play a little backup point guard while guarding the 4s and 5s, 3 4s and 5s, but he can have to take over some ball handling duties. I don't think you want him to be a primary point guard. The problem is like, you don't really want Shaedon Sharpe to be a primary point guard. Keon can do it, but he's not good at it. So maybe it is Ryan Arcidiacono to organize things. But that seems relatively unlikely too. I would assume it's Shaedon Sharpe getting a bunch more minutes and Keon Johnson getting an elevated role. But there's time to be had for the Blazers guards in the back end of the bench. Shaedon Sharpe, this is a big opportunity for him because he has a chance to step into starters minutes and play 30 plus a night for at least, 7 plus games. If it's 3 weeks for Ants, a couple weeks for Ants, 7 plus games. Luckily Simons is going to miss some time during the All-Star break, so that'll help him. If he's on the sort of faster healing trend, he could miss fewer games because of when he sustained the injury. But even if it's 7 games, Shaedon Sharpe playing starter minutes for 7 games, fascinating. I can't wait to see it. In fact, Nissan's Most Electric Player of the Week is brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. And Shaedon Sharpe is our Nissan Most Electric Player of the Week. After 2 games, the game on Monday evening, Shaedon Sharpe played the best game of his young NBA career, and on Tuesday, second night of a back-to-back, he followed that up with a really nice game, 14-5-4 against the LA Lakers. That's 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Another 14 points against the Wizards in 2 games this week. 14 points, 14.5 points, 3 boards, 2.5 assists, and 1.5 steals. Shot 57.9% from the floor and 5 of 10 from 3-point range. Threw down some awesome dunks. He was brilliantly fierce, stunningly powerful, much like the 2023 Nissan Ariya. He delivers the duality, the combination of fierceness, elegance, beautiful but strong. That is Shaedon Sharpe's game. Graceful yet dominant. He's the perfect sport utility crossover. Actually, he's the perfect fill-in shooting guard, but maybe the Nissan Ariya is your perfect sports utility crossover. That's that Nissan Ariya, which packs pin-to-your-seat power and premium intelligence all in one electric vehicle. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya, the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. All right. Let's talk all-star stuff, shall we? Let's talk all-star stuff. Let's get into it. I'm a little bummed that Shaedon Sharpe is not involved in All-Star Weekend in any way. His choice, whatever. Enjoy your time off. Hopefully you go somewhere warm or at least have some time to relax when the Blazers, get 8 days or whatever off. Enjoy it, fella. But I would have liked to see you dunk on Saturday night. No Blazers in the dunk contest. And because Anfernee Simons is out, he's not in the 3-point contest. He's been replaced by Julius Randle, which is a very classic who is already in Utah type of inclusion. I thought there was a chance it might end up being it might end up being Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's, leading the league in 3-point shooting. He's on the best team in the league, the best team in the West, the best offense in the league. And he complained on Twitter that he wasn't in the 3-point contest. But, he probably already made plans, right? Like he probably was like, oh, I'm on vacation. Sorry, cannot go to Salt Lake City in February. It's too cold. So a below league average 3-point shooter in Julius Randle, who's having a great year, but like he's not he's like a functional 3-point shooter. He's not like a 3-point contest level 3-point shooter, but he replaces Anfernee Simons in the field. And now Damian Lillard has to bring home the hardware for the Blazers. No Trailblazer has ever won the 3-point contest. They've had a bunch of guys in it. Kiki Vandeweghe was in it in 1987. The 3-point contest came into being in 1986, and Larry Bird ripped off 3 straight. But Kiki Vandeweghe was in 1987. Clyde Drexler was in 91. Terry Porter was in 91. Teammates in the All-Star in the 3-point contest would have been Dame and Ant, the first Blazers teammates to be there since Clyde and Terry Porter in 91. Bummer for Ant. Terry Porter went back in 1993. Uncle Cliff Robinson was in the 1996. It was in the 1996 contest. Damian Lillard in 2014. Wesley Matthews in 2015, and Dame again in 2019. The best anyone's ever done a 3-point contest in a Blazer uniform is Terry Porter, who made the finals in 1991 but lost to Craig Hodges, also a 3-time winner of the 3-point contest. Dame in 2014 finished 3rd but didn't make the finals because Marco Bellinelli and Brad Beal shot the friggin' lights out. In 2019, he did not do as well, finished 5th out of a field of 10, tied with Dirk Nowitzki for 5th most makes in the first round. I don't think Dame is like a heavy favorite, but I do like him in the 3-point contest. But 3-point contest, whatever, it's fun. It's better than dunk contest, which is a mess. I do like Dame's chances a little bit to win the All-Star Game MVP. Bill Oram of the Oregonian wrote about this, and I think it's a great point. Bill had some logic about how Dame is went to college in the area, and I do not think the relative proximity of Ogden, Utah, and Dame's relative popularity in the greater Rocky Mountain area is particularly important, but it is a fun little tie-in. Dame is legitimately very popular in Utah. When you go to Jazz games as a Blazer reporter, there are a ton of Dame folks. There are Weber State people. There are his people from the Weber State. There are just like fans and Weber State alum who live in Salt Lake City or come up to Salt Lake City and are like, yeah, we're Dame fans. He went to Weber State. Like, go Wildcats. We're him and Harold Arsenault, 2 Ogden legends there. If you know who Harold Arsenault is, you are a certain type of person. I like Dame's chances in the All-Star game. Here's the thing: the All-Star game rosters are going to be decided, like the team's already decided or whatever. But who plays for who will be decided by a draft 30 minutes before tip-off, which is fun. I think it's a good TV idea because somebody has to get picked last, and the NBA loves drama, and whoever gets picked last it'll be a great time for whoever gets picked last. And then also it's like who LeBron picks, blah, blah, blah. It's like, ooh, which guy is he definitely going to team up with next? But I kind of think Dame is on that, like, I don't want to say a bad word, but he's on that screw you type of energy this year. He's been great. And he's been defiantly great. And when Dame said earlier this week that he didn't worry about the Blazers when they were scuffling because we have me, I feel like that we have me energy is going to carry into All-Star Weekend, where Dame is like, listen, I've seen the straw poll on ESPN about who's going to win MVP of the league. I'm not even getting votes, and he shouldn't. The Blazers are in 12th place in the Western Conference. Like, that's not what it is. But, Dame is fiercely optimistic and fiercely confident, and also is averaging a career high in scoring. And he's been really efficient, having one of the most efficient seasons of his, straight up the most, in terms of volume and efficiency, the most efficient season of his career. Part of me thinks in this type of competition, this is the year Damian Lillard wins MVP. So while All-Star Saturday night tends to underwhelm, the skills challenge they need to just get rid of, the dunk contest, get excited for Jericho Sims and Mac McClung or whatever. But like, I think Sunday's game, the way that they've changed the format such that it's a target score at the end of games, makes guys play defense at the end of games. It makes the first little bit is not very competitive, but it does make the fourth quarter a competitive basketball game featuring the best players in the world. And we will see kind of what playing time is like, because that typically dictates who can win. And if you're a starter, you typically get a little more playing time. We'll see how that all shakes out. But I think the combination of the top guys maybe not caring and having already won it, and the starter types having already won some MVPs, final or All-Star MVPs like Giannis. This is like, I would say, and Luka Doncic has never cared about the All-Star game. Is a dude who just does not care about it. In fact, he said this week what he's looking forward to most of All-Star weekend was flying to Mexico on Sunday. So my man he's ready for a vacation. Shout out to Luka getting margaritas on the beach. I think Dame has a little bit of that, a little bit of we have me energy heading into Sunday's game. I would check your FanDuel app and get in on the MVP odds. I think Dame is a juicy pick to win it. I was actually going to do this segment, and then Bill Orm wrote about it before I could. That is what a good columnist does. Shout out to my man, Bill. All right, close the show. Got a really fun interview for you. Chin Balancer, who's performing at All-Star Saturday night. It's Kevin Shiflett is going to join me in the third segment. Join me there. You join us in that third segment. First, let me tell you about Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar on the market. You can still go to Built.com right now and use the promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your next order. But if you don't want to wait for online shipping, or you just like to go and buy things analog style, old school analog style, put your hand on the product, well, now, for the first time ever, Built Bars available in stores. Walmarts and Sam's Clubs across the U.S. carry Built Bars now. So you can go find out if I've been telling you the truth about peanut butter brownie, about cookies and cream all these years. I like Built Bars because they pack a punch, 17 grams of protein, and they're not going to light you up with a ton of sugar. 4 grams of sugar or less on average. 5 grams of sugar or less on average in your Built Bars. And just 4 net carbs because they got a bunch of fiber, 130 calories. They taste great, covered in chocolate, give you that little bit of energetic sugar boost you need, but they're not just filled with terrible things. They get you going with the protein. They sustain you. They taste great, and they sustain you with the protein that they got. So go to Sam's Club, go to Walmart, find out if I've been telling you the truth, or head to Built.com and use that promo code LOCKEDON15. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. What I want to do to close the show is play you an interview with Chin Balancer, Kevin Shiflett, who is performing on All-Star Saturday night. Chin Balancer is one of the great up-and-coming acts of all halftime acts. I'm someone who just adores halftime acts. And Kevin comes out, NBA arenas around the country, and does what the act says he does. He balances his stuff on his chin. It is brilliantly simple and a ton of fun, and he was a joy to talk to. Here's my interview with Kevin now. And joining me now, Kevin Shiflett. You might know him as the Chin Balancer. You've seen him balancing a ladder on a ladder at halftime in NBA arenas. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
So I love your halftime show. I love halftime shows. I'm a League Pass junkie. I always love the in-arena feed so I can watch the halftime shows. I get mad when they cut away back to the actual broadcast because I want to see the performers.
I'm the same, and all of a sudden it shows up and it shows like just the NBA symbol and instead of the actual halftime. I'm like, no.
I know, especially at the finale of the act. It's like you're climbing up 4 steps up the ladder, and they get away, and it's like, come on, Chin Balancer this was the finish. This was the big finish, the payoff for the whole thing. So I want to ask you sort of about all that, but first, like, I guess the number one question in my mind is, how does one learn that they can balance large items on their chin?
That's probably the number one question I always get, and I've been balancing now for quite a few years. Professionally, I've only been doing it since 2015. However, I've been balancing since I was 10 years old. So my family and I, we went to the circus, Ringling Brothers, and there was a clown who was balancing different objects. And so within the next couple of weeks, my brother and I were both doing chores, and we both were sweeping, and we had a broom. And so we were just remembering about the circus and said, hey, let's try to balance our brooms. And of course, his didn't stay up there, but mine did. And so ever since I was 10, it's been, try this, try that. And until like bigger and better, like you said, until even ladders.
Yeah, the ladder on the ladder. So you broke in with the Jazz in 2015. Tell me about how does one like how do you get in contact with an NBA team and say, "Hey, I'm a dude who can balance a wheelbarrow on his chin."
And that is a special. I was just reflecting on that this week and kind of turn around now. I'm going to be heading back to Utah for the All-Star weekend. Um, I was living in Utah at the time, and my friend happened to be at a Jazz game, and they had an advertisement. Hey, we're doing a halftime talent contest, a talent search, and he told me, Kevin, you need to apply for this. And I'm so glad he saw it because I applied, and ultimately the voters voted me as who they wanted to see at halftime, and I was able to perform for the Jazz, and that was my first time performing in the NBA professionally, you might say. And then from there, teams reach out to me, and I've been able to travel throughout the country and perform throughout the NBA.
Your act is really simple. That's kind of the beauty of it, right? It's like for those of you who haven't seen it, first of all, I'll drop the website. It's in the episode description here, so you can check out, and I'll share some images from Kevin's performance in Portland. But it's so simple because it's like the music starts and you balance a broom on your chin for 5 seconds, and you kind of just give everybody a taste. Okay, here's where it's going, and then it builds and builds and builds. How did you kind of dial in the act? And do you travel around with all of this stuff? What does your traveling situation look like?
Yeah, so exactly. I love doing that suspense, kind of starting with smaller items, working my way up. At first, halftime's an interesting time because people are doing different things during halftime. It's a nice little break, but they start to see, it's getting bigger. He's doing bigger and better. So I like to bring that element to it. As far as my items, most of the bigger things, some are there at the arena. Other things I bring along with me, wheelbarrows and things like that, aren't at arenas. But yeah, I like to work my way small to big.
So are you flying around the country with a wheelbarrow in tow?
Nope, I don't. When I get to wherever I'm performing, I pick that up at wherever I'm at. Usually
Aha.
Home
Okay.
Depot is the best place. Yeah.
So you've
No
rented.
sponsorship, but usually
Yeah, yeah,
Home
yeah,
Depot.
yeah. We'll say a local
Hardware.
provider. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Local hardware provider. National hardware chains provide some of the equipment. So I wonder, how do you get on the circuit? Because to be on the NBA halftime circuit, it is a small fraternity of folks. Like I am, as a League Pass watcher, I know who's on the circuit. I see the 8, 9, 12 folks that are on there. How do you break in and become part of that special group?
It's something I just every day I think like, how is it me? I feel so blessed and honored, but because you're right, I'm also in awe of the Christian and Scooby, the Steve Max, the guys who are they're awesome at what they do, and to be able the Red Panda to be
Mm-hmm.
part of that group is something that's special. But it's not as far as how to get on it. It's something I've just been able to be contacted by teams, and it's word of mouth. The entertainment industry is very at the same time, even though the performers aren't associated with the team, the entertainment teams all know each other. And so that networking has been nice,
So
especially after COVID. There was a lot of changes within teams and different entertainment teams and professionals switching around. And so having that word of mouth and those connections have been awesome.
yeah, and it's like I do think once people see the guy who balances the ladder on his chin, they're like, yeah, we got to get him. Like, and it's like, okay, this nobody's doing this. When you weren't doing it professionally, were you just balancing on your own? Were you like what was that before you were on the circuit? What was chin balancer?
So I did it at home, just at different here. And I'm from Arizona, so I do it for different local church talent shows and things like
Sure.
that. But it's not even now. It's not my full time job. I actually work for Geico Insurance, but and no shout out there either. But it's one of those things that I love sharing my talent. And then finally, when I was able to have that opportunity with the Jazz, it was helped me to do it as a paid side hobby.
Yeah, no, a kind of a travel heavy hobby. I'll say you're all over the globe. You're all over the map. How often do you work? Like how many gigs are you getting with regularity? How often is Chin Balancer out on the court?
I I do have a family, so I have my wife and 3 kids. So that's where I want to no pun intended, but I like to maintain my balance. So usually at minimum maybe one a month, but January, for example, was pretty busy. I was gone once a week, just traveling around to different teams.
So are you doing
Kind of
like,
depends.
are you doing 20 NBA teams a year? Do you hit every team? Do you get 30? Or are you doing like, 2/3 of them or something like that?
I, Currently, there's 30 teams in the NBA, and I've actually only performed for 15. So I'm working my way through. The goal is to be able to do all of them.
Yeah, well, listen, you've been to Portland a couple times. I've seen you.
Yeah.
I've seen the acts live, but that's how I got excited about your act. So I was like, oh, I don't know this one. I don't know Chin Balancer. I know Christian Scooby. I've seen the dog. Red Panda is a legend in the game. Slaydeck on the chairs is a legend in the game.
Yeah.
The Chin Balance, it's like when someone new comes, I'm a halftime junkie. I love it. So I was super excited. I think it's like sort of it's easy to say, oh yeah, this is unique. I mentioned the ladder. So again,
I say one second?
Yeah, sure.
That this last game was for me as a performer to be part of any game is special, but that was a really fun game the last time I was there. Portland won it at the end. It was a very awesome game to be a part of. So it's special to be for me when there's basketball players on the court, and then I get to come out and continue to keep the crowd inspired and part of the game because I know that also helps the team. So it's special for me to be part of that too.
Yeah, well, they hadn't won a close game in a million years. You get Chin Balancer in the building, and they finally win one in the clutch. So I mean, I'm just saying they hadn't won a game that was within. This was a game against the Hawks. The Blazers had not won a game decided by single digits since December. Chin Balancer gets in there, and 6 weeks of losing. All of a sudden, I don't know.
Leave it there. Yep, yeah. I'm with you.
So like we mentioned, the act kind of builds. It's a broom, it's something small, it's a wheelbarrow, it's the chair that all the other, the table that all the other items were on. You eventually balance the table. Like it really builds on itself. And usually the capper is you balance a ladder on a ladder. It's like it's the perfect balancing act, right?
Thank you.
Do you dream up of going bigger? Like when you sit at home with your wife and kids, do you say, hey, you think I could balance X and X item and go bigger and bigger and bigger?
Yeah, as long as I can lift it, I can balance it. So we're always thinking of different ideas, or people are throwing ideas out. If I'm able to bring it with me, just as an example, we have a friend who's in the lighting business, street lights and things like that. And so had an idea. He said, you know what? I'm going to build one of these street lights for you, like a stoplight that's battery operated. And so if I'm close enough and it's pretty heavy and it's big. People don't realize how tall those actually are. So he had this idea, he made it for me, and if I'm able to bring it, I balance that and it flashes and everything. But yeah, if there's different things that we're always thinking, or it's crazy, but you mentioned Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, any store we're walking through, like, hey, how about this? So even there in the store, I'll try it.
You give it a test run to see if it works.
Yep, and then it has logistically, like we talked about, it has to be something that I can easily get and transport wherever I'm going.
Right.
So that also comes in.
Yeah, via rental car and whatever, you got to be able to get it to the arena. Right. Most people are familiar with your act, though. They know that you're going to show up to the loading dock a couple hours before tip-off with like 6 ladders and a wheelbarrow or whatever. So
yeah, a barbecue and things. Even the staff who may not have. It's nice to come back. Like Portland was awesome. Everybody recognized me and loved me for the first time, and so it's nice to have those connections. But even the first time people that see me, like, hey, what? We're having a barbecue. Like, well, come to halftime and find out.
I know you're performing this weekend at All-Star Saturday night. You're going to perform in Utah you're going to be there at the practices heading into the All-Star practice, which is on Saturday, and then Saturday evening during the sort of showcase stuff, dunk contest, 3-point contest, all the stuff that happens. What does it mean to be part of the NBA's mid-season showcase? Like this is probably a pretty big deal in your circles.
That's saying it lightly. I feel incredibly honored, blessed that they would reach out to me. Like I said, I work with all the different teams, but to have the actual NBA as an association reach out to me, I'm incredibly honored. Lack of words. I'm just super excited. And yes, it is one of those once in a lifetime. Not many people get to balance thing or perform during half times, but to be able to perform the kind of at something so special is in lack of words. It's just super special for me.
Are you going is this where you go your biggest? Are you going to be I don't know. Are you going to be as bold as you've ever been on All-Star Saturday night? Are we going to see some new tricks?
I'm still working with the people through the NBA. We're trying to figure out exactly how everything will fit together, but I'll be definitely performing Saturday night at the Huntsman Center right before the All-Star practice. And then that same night is the skills night over at the Vivint Arena. And I'll be performing sometime either right before or during the dunk contest. And we're still working out all the details.
Awesome. Well, everyone check it out. That you find more info, Chin Balancer, in the episode description for this. Kevin's X is just a whole bunch of fun. I love halftime stuff. I'm glad we got to have a little fun here on the show. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again to Kevin for joining the show. Come back for Monday shows. What we do here at Locked On Blazers. We make a show every single weekday. Over the weekend, Blazers are going to play, Damon 3-point contest, Damon the All-Star game. We will talk about both of those games, all the things that went down in Salt Lake City. We'll have shows all next week. The NBA may take a little time off, but Locked On Blazers isn't. So come back and join us. Tell your friends to do it. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.